16 farms for $16, and sale and purchase agreements completed on those, and you may have heard that those caveats were removed. I'm thinking about appealing it because I believe it's incorrect in law, because the basis that caveats can be removed is it's no sustainable reason for having them there. The thing is that the sale and purchase agreements are completely valid. They've never been proven or challenged by the receivers or anybody else as to their validity. The cry is, oh, but the Crafars had no right to sell them. Because they were in receivership, not any other reason. Which is good news for everybody who's not in receivership, because you can do this yourself. You can sell your own land, but you have to be careful that you know what you're doing. You've got to know how to put a caveat on. Well, the other person who buys your land puts a caveat on, because they put that against your title. So anyway, the caveats got removed, and but I was saying to the judge at the time, well, I don't know who's going to tell the Chinese now that they've just bought pieces of paper, because in actual fact that's all titles are, pieces of paper. We're buying and selling pieces of paper. The possession and occupation of land is given freely as in a treaty. Sometimes you'll see on a sale and purchase agreement, are you selling this through a real estate agent or are you selling it by private treaty? Well, that means, are you selling it through an agent treating for you, or are you doing the treaty yourself? That's all it means. But the treaty part refers to that swapping of or handing over of possession and occupation of the land.
Our story actually starts in 1886 when our tupuna Te Otami Tiringitanga, he had taken to the government about the wrong surveying of our lands of Ngā Huinga, Ngā Hiringa or Marairo. In 1886, when he took it to the government will say that you need to come back to another land court hearing. And then what happened is that he had died in 1890, and then his son, which is my tupuna, Wehi Tiringitanga, he kept on taking it back to the courts to try and have everything recognised on the mistake that had been taking place there. 4 times when it went up, there was 4 different surveyors. The last one was a surveyor named Carroll. He's the one that did the real damage to our tupuna, because in 1940 the judge actually made a decision, and when he made the decision is that all the witnesses were dead, and when there was no witnesses, that's when the judge made a decision on it, that he said that there was no claim, but which there was.
We talked on the phone a couple of times, and we had hour-long conversations, and this was a good 2 years ago, and he told me about the trouble he was having with the receivers, and that he was really wanting to dig his heels in and stay. So I said to him, they can't actually make you move off your land. Sometimes you say things and you don't understand why you say them, but you get the feeling that you're correct, and that's actually the correct position, because when you have a mortgage over your property, the bank has what's called a charge, and it's on the title, it's not actually on the land, so they never have the right of possession to the land. He stayed on that land to the bitter end, and in the end they offered him something like $450,000 to move off, which he did, because of course he was thinking at that stage he was going to lose everything anyway, so at least he'd better have a few $100,000 to try and start again. Before that though, and very close to the time he moved off, I finally talked him into selling the properties to me, because you can save them by selling them, because basically you put them into another person's hands. The rights to possession, which you can move, you don't even have to pay any money for them, but it's traditional to put in some amount, and the amount was $1. You'll sometimes see, if you look through land documents, you'll quite often see in historical documentation that is put into Land Information New Zealand, into LINZ, you'll often see that a right-of-way, for example, is sold for $1, or sometimes even more land than that can be sold for $1, because everyone has the right to sell their land if they're the registered proprietor, and that's what Alan Crafar. Oh well, it's not Alan Crafar on the titles. It's actually, for example, Plateau Farms Limited or Hillside Farms Limited, Taharoa. There's four companies, and they are what's known as the Crafar Group. And it's true that those are in receivership, but those are the companies that are in receivership. The land is not in receivership, if you like. The activities that go on top of the land are in receivership. And so you can separate out those two things and say, okay, well, I'm going to sell the land. And the banks have a remedy, but it is not possession of the land. It is money. And that's in the land law, and basically it seems as if bankers look at money law and they don't look at land law, and that has been to their downfall, because, well, they're not actually interested in land, they're only interested in money. And some people say, well, you know, that's not fair, he borrowed the money saying that he'd repay it, and you know, that was, of course I believe that's everybody's intention when they take out mortgages, etc. But I have learned a lot over these last 2 years about how the credit system in the world actually works, and so it's quite obvious to me, and I have the documentation that shows that they can adjust the credit all around the world, not just in New Zealand, all around the world with the stroke of a pen, and that's what they've been doing. In some cases, the banks have also been playing Russian roulette with them, with the credit that they do hold. And then when things have gone wrong, they're saying, okay, there's a recession, and trying to blame people who are, you know, working and actually producing real value, and saying, oh, it's all your fault, we want our money back now. But what they've lent you in the first place is something very interesting called credit, not capital. When we actually take that credit and turn it into something of value, then it becomes capital. But what they're lending to people is another creature called credit, and it actually has no value until it is used. It's sort of like a seeding. It's like having a seed, and a seed you can't get much out of. It's only if you put it in the earth and let it grow and into a tree, and then reap, you know, the fruits of that tree. The seed itself is essential, but it's not the fruits. So credit's a bit like that. But they've been having us on that they're the only ones who can produce this stuff. In actual fact, our governments could produce it on our behalf, but they won't, because they are in the hands of the banks. They are the bank's creatures, just as receivers are the bank's creatures.
When we heard about these Crafar farmers are going to be gone into receivership, and the government had it, we made contact with our trustee, being Hardy Penny, chairman of Te Oi and Te Hapu, if anybody comes along and saying that they want to buy some farms and all that, and if we would like to join them because there's 2 farms that actually they know that belongs to us, or we want to come in and actually try and buy them back. At the time, Hardy Penny, he's the chairman of Tiwa and Tahapi, he was pretty standoffish about it until he actually ran it past me. What I said to him was, drop what you're doing, try and make contact with the receivers and tell them that you want to put a bid on the farms. And the first bid that they put on missed out. The second bid that they put on was with Landcorp Farm. They missed out. The third bid that they come along with was with Michael Fay and other iwi consortiums. And then they got listened to. And then at the same time we got these Chinese people come over, and the overseas investment people say that they filled out the applications, they dotted the dots, they crossed the T's, ticked all the appropriate boxes, that they're going to be the appropriate ones to buy. This first company, I must point out, they actually, it was a mining company. They just had someone to put their face forward to say that they're going to be a big part of a big milk factory. But they're big miners. And it's at the same time as Michael Fay and Mr. Penny, they all put their offers in at the same time. And what I've got to point out is that Bailey's, when they tendered all the farms out, is that the farms that we went to go and tender for one was for 895 hectares, and it stated just 895 hectares. It didn't say anything about buying the other 15 farms, just that farm exclusively. So we put a bid on 2 farms. And what I'm very disappointed on is that to keep all the farms as a collective is that they used this Indian man. He said when the farms first come up to be tendered was that he'll buy the lot. And then he put his tender in, and the winner come up and it showed that he had no money. So what the receivers did is that they re-tendered it, and that's how we come in. And we all know that it was stolen land. And but this was the only way that we could get our stolen land back was by it. So we directed our trustee to do the following.
So getting back to Bennydale, I think if you say what's happening at Bennydale, there's an occupation going on down there on a specific piece of one of the farms. Now why those people are occupying down there is within that farm down there, and within a lot of the farms actually, there are a number of titles, and they've been amalgamated under the one address. I think there's 6 titles down there. Now the title that they are occupying, the piece of land that's described in the title, is only just over 4 hectares. And it's subject to what's known as it's a resumption caveat actually. And it's subject to section 27B of the State-Owned Enterprises Act 1986. People might have heard quite a lot about section 9 being invoked by Maori interests about not selling assets. They're talking about section 9 of the State-Owned Enterprises Act 1986. The history of that act is that in 1986 the then Labour government was mad and keen on selling assets, and Maori were right in the midst of claims to the Waitangi Tribunal, proving their lineage actually to, it's like, your great-great-great-grandfather left you some land and you're just proving you're the right person to get it. The particular interest that's in that 4 hectares, it's subject to section 27B of the State-Owned Enterprises Act 1986, which provides for the resumption of land on the recommendation of the Waitangi Tribunal and which does not provide for third parties, such as the owner of the land, to be heard in relation to the making of any such recommendation. We had thought previously that those resumptions of land only referred to land that was held in the state's control. That's obviously not the case, because this 4 hectares is in the middle of what is known as private property, so the owner of that land will be compensated, and that's what the government is saying to those people down who are occupying the farm. We'll give you $40,000 to quietly take this piece of land and we'll get, let's quietly do this. And they're saying, no, we want to buy the whole farm. We want to have some economic base in it. It's our tupuna's land and the sacred area there, in particular that 4 hectares, but they want to make an economic success of it. I'm quite happy that they, of course, that 4 hectares, I'm not going to be putting caveats on that. Well, I'm not going to be putting caveats on anything in terms of those farms anymore, because I have lessees who are ready to put their caveats on. Now, this is a slightly different caveat. It shows the interest of a lease, and those are not caveats that you can go and ask the court to take off. You have to deal with those people who've got that claim yourself as the new buyer. So the actual name on the certificate of title can change, but that interest in the possession stays there. It's the real thing. A lot of the title toing and froing is to do with this strange thing called money, and the fact is that the possession is pretty much passed for nothing by goodwill, and it's just certificates of title that cost the money.
We're going to get trespassed, and then we're going to go to court. Getting trespassed, well, it's not the first time any of our tupunas have got trespassed. My nannies and kuros, they got trespassed in the 40s for sitting on the railway tracks because of the government wasn't paying them the right revenue for the land that they leased out. They just called them radicals. And then the mill at the time was Alice and Bananes and Mangapihi. What my cows and them had to do is that to pay them for loss of the company earnings, which runs into thousands of pounds. And so my tupunas were left with having to pay thousands of pounds in lost revenue to the mill, and then they got trespassed out of the rohi. And so this Monday we're supposed to be getting arrested. It doesn't worry me, doesn't faze me. Is because the only way for us to show that the story is true is that we have to follow the same footsteps as my tupunas, our kaua kuia. They all got arrested. They never finished for what they believe is true. And so this is where we are at the moment. I just hope that the government sees sense, and that the people throughout Aotearoa, maybe if they even get to outside world, that they can understand that our movement is peaceful.
I have sought some legal advice today in relation to the documents you've had there, and you'll appreciate that we may have to agree to disagree as to the legality of the papers that you have there. Though I realise they're dated August 2011, there's going to be obviously a legal argument in relation to that. However, this is not the forum for that argument. It won't be resolved here. Certainly not. So I do appreciate where you're coming from. I do appreciate what those documents say. say. However, I'm going to be bound by my authority and by that trespass notice that has been served. So what I'll be doing is just asking you to remove yourself from the premises. I'll give you a time frame today. If you require some time to remove your chattels and things, okay, they will have to also go.
It's the little things. It's the little things. It's the little things that really matter.
Yes, and that's where we'll get to our moot point about the understanding of the law around that. The advice that I have sought today would suggest that the Kortamenta currently are the occupiers of the property. It is their staff that are occupying the sites here in relation to farm operations and so forth. They have the ability for one of their staff or their agents to issue those notices, and that's how that's occurred. That's the legal point that we will be taking, or have taken, and we've tried to explain on Thursday.
So we're going to get so you guys yourself will be taking this forward about who is legal occupier? Or will that only happen if we resist?
Well, if you choose the option and take this particular matter to the court, at the district court level, we'd only be addressing the charge of trespass.
Yes, but the trespass is based on who is the legal occupier.
If you wish to defend it, that would be your option to take that to the next level.
So, but it would have to be that there would have to be an arrest made into the court on that matter.
And it's all you know,
by arrangement.
yeah, and
Yes.
and the only way.
The other thing, of course, that's sorry. May I say about your intention for the rest of the farm?
Yeah.
Because of course this is only an occupation of the 4 hectares that is under a resumption clause under the State Enterprises Act 2017. Okay, so the belief, the arrangement that we have is that this 4 hectares will be excluded from any sale agreements, and that of course Mr. Moana Emery will become the owner of this land, of the 4 hectares, but he's also about to make an approach to the bank to buy the rest of the farm.
Yes.
Now when that happens, of course he'll only be buying the title because that's all that's left in this situation, and I will be selling him the fee simple for what I put for, which was $1. Okay? So we will pull it. Will pull it back together again. So the thing is that we have this has got no animosity going on here. Okay, you were doing exactly as you've got been told to do. But we will be talking to the court about who is the legal occupier. And my understanding is that as far back as 1290 by Kia and Taurus, we got rid of feudalism then. We got rid of the king saying you're my subjects. We got rid of it and it seems to me now that the banks are trying to push themselves in there and say, no, we own everything and you will do as we say. And that's, the thing with taking the caveats off, for example, that was done without any reason whatsoever. Now that's unheard of, absolutely unheard of. They didn't put up one legal argument as to why that should happen.
Look, I appreciate that standpoint. Like I say, we're certainly not going to get into legal arguments at this level.
No.
It's at a different level compared to what we would be capable of. So that's the story there. But look, Ian, I'm going to be asking you to leave. How long would you require to shift your chattels?
Geez, well, we're not going to leave. We're going to go
rest of it and take
Yep.
it through. And then I respect your father's stance and how this has been happening, and the only way to get to the next process is we're just going to have to, and then another cousin's going to move up here and
Yeah, and we can address that in each particular time, and obviously with staff present on site here, we can come and ask them verbally for you to remove yourselves. And each and every time that warning's refused, they will find themselves liable to arrest and prosecution. You are trespassing at this particular point. Okay. What I'm going to offer you is a time perhaps to remove your children. All right. That may not affect any prosecution, okay? Because if you are arrested, we will then have to make some arrangements to remove your personal items of property from here. I'm giving you an opportunity to do that, so there's no accusations of anybody else interfering with your property. Okay, that's your personal items and things like that.
and take you to Creighton.
Alright, so look, I'll give you half an hour, just to have a bit of a chat.
Yeah.
I know what the outcome will be.
Yeah.
But if you want to have a talk about it, that's fine. And we'll just go through. But I'd like to see some sort of movement towards perhaps shifting these pieces off.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it will be up to us or the farm owners, as they're deemed to be at the moment, because until that's determined in your courts, they would have the right to shift your things. Okay, so I'm just providing that opportunity for you to do that. You can come back and see me at the end of that half hour, and we can still go through the same process that you wish to pursue.
The trust have pretty much made it quite clear where they're standing over things, and but we also, as an iwi, we got to make a stand. It's no different to what happened to our other korors, great grand korors and all that. So it's no different. Going to have to go through that arrest mode and go through it and just carry on with it. And I really appreciate the stance that the police have been taking, and also respect them with the mahi that they have to do, and the respect back they're showing our iwi is pretty much the same. So we started this out as peaceful. We'll continue with it being peaceful, and just powers to be. And I'd like to thank for the cultural side that the police has shown, the utmost respect, so I just got to show the same respect back, and respect is shown on both sides. So there's nothing else but to do but to go through the process. There's no half an hour think on this, there's no half an hour that we are going to get arrested. This is to help the cause. Well, this is the only way forward for us. Okay, it's all kapai there, Craig.
But I believe, I know at least 2 other farms that have these resumption interests on them. One's in Taupo and one's down in Repurchasing. So I'd say that this occupation won't be the last occupation. What I will do when I have my leases put their caveats on is leave out those particular interests, because those are covered anyway. You could say that state-owned enterprises interest under the State-Owned Enterprises Act, the interest to Maori in those lands is a form of caveat. Really, it's a buyer beware. It's a buyer beware signal. Sometimes you'll hear the phrase caveat emptor, that means buyer beware. So what I've been doing with the caveat process is putting up flags, putting up signals saying, hey, look, what's here? Let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at it. The media and the courts have done their darndest to keep them quiet on the whole thing, because they don't want any of this being talked about. And people say, but who else has done it? Where's the precedent? There is no precedent. We've got to start somewhere. And this is old law. This is an Englishman's home is his castle. There's a great quote quote from William Pitt, which I haven't got with me at the moment, but it's something about, you know, a man's home, even if it's the wind may blow through it and it's shaky, even the crown can't come and take it away from him. And that's what we're saying here. And we're putting up the signals and saying, look, it's already sold, the land's gone. So let's get on with making the best of it now, and it will be a really great thing because my leasees are going to have help and guidance in running their farms, and there'll be great returns to the communities that those farms are in, because they're basically debt free. Banks have basically lent nothing in the first place. They've taken a commercial risk and it's gone sour on them, and it's about time it did, because they've been stealing our land. They've been, you know, there's been a concentrated effort to take those lands away, and they do it by inflating the economy, deflating the economy. And it's not a business cycle of boom and bust. It's a deliberate strategy by banks to steal assets, to strip assets out.
Take your